So good morning, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Erin. Um, so I think from a JFrog perspective, I just wanted to set some context in terms of who we are. I see some familiar faces here again. Thanks for joining here. As you know, we have been around for a long time. We are some 7,300 plus customers, right? And we are a public company, and we have been very fortunate to serve some of the best DevSecOps product line, which has been matured over a period of time, plus 9 plus 10 years. And we have organically grown this company in terms of adding functions and features that are very relevant to what we are going to talk about today. So again, we are powering majority of the industries, top companies in multiple domains, right? Technology, finance, transportation, and so on and so forth. But again, I think from the federal and government agency perspective, right, it involves more civilian agencies and also Department of Defense, right? And it includes both across multiple, three-letter agencies. We have been very blessed to have trusted by some of these agencies in terms of securing software supply chain and also some of the DevSecOps practices in their organizations. I want to actually quickly talk through uh, some of the DoD current projects here. And I feel this is very relevant to establishing what I call as a absolute credentials to JFrog, right? And how it's getting used without naming some of the exact you know program name. So if you were to know some more details of this, we can always chat about this and give some references. But I think the most important things to note here is Artifactory and JFrog. Some of the security services have been widely used as a backbone, as a DevSecOps backbone across these DoD programs. So what this really means is, we are supporting some thousands of mission applications, large number of users who are relying on DevSecOps platform by JFrog to not only develop, but also to continuously deploy these mission critical applications on a crucial weapon system software. And also we are also into programs that are looking at how do I enable like edge distributions, right, to command and control. JFrog has been backbone for DevSecOps, right? This would involve not just physical resources, but also tactical edge deployments or devices that are run at the edge locations and thousands of them, right? And how do I update a piece of software running on that so that we can enable the war fighters very efficiently, updating it at the real time, and all provided backbone by JFrog DevSecOps, right? So this includes, some of the major CI/CD pipelines for weapon system software, and also how do you make sure some of those uh, softwares that's being deployed onto those weapon systems is secured, and also do a tactical edge distribution, right? So you're basically distributing a piece of software or a bunch of software, what we call as an artifact, across multiple cross domains, could be multiple impact level classifications, the traversing those software artifacts through these secure pipelines all the way to the tactical devices where a warfighter could be accessing a piece of software to accomplish their mission critical application mission is all. We are very proud to announce that some of the very major programs are using JFrogs. So again, I want to quickly highlight what JFrog platform is, what the capabilities at a high level, and then we can always jump uh, deep dive into some of the product capabilities as well. Again, platforms are the user, and this is coming from the Gartner Magic Quadrant. By 2027, right, so 75% of organizations will be switching from multiple point solution to the DevSecOps platform. So why are we even talking about this, right? So as the topic of today, how do you achieve efficiencies, right, in terms of what you're currently doing, your DevSecOps practices, and how do you make sure those practices are streamlined? And but what I mean by that is not only streamlining by consolidating this point security products on a single platform, but also I'm going to talk about how do you efficiently do this in your current JFrog setup if you're on a JFrog platform, right? By utilizing some of the core functionality and the features that are very inherent on this platform. Again, we have a unified approach. That means DevOps term has been coined 10 years ago, and later, it's not just the development, right, and the operational aspects of it, but the security, which was sitting really siloed, is now part of DevOps. So DevOps, and then with the modernization and optimization and a criticality of how do you optimize your uh, mission critical application, machine learning has taken a central stage, and operating those machine learning models is coined as an MLOps, right? So how do you kind of unify all these three into a single platform is by providing what we call as an end-to-end platform. That means you have visibility, governance, and control on a single platform, right? All the way from inception of your source code to deployment and everything in between. JFrog does provide platform capabilities to do that. And from a platform perspective, artifacts or a compiled binaries needs to be managed from a life cycle. Continuous security has to be an inherent part of this platform, right? So you want to make sure those artifacts are continuously monitored for any vulnerabilities or license compliance issues. If there are any application exposures or misconfiguration, you need to be able to scan that on a continuous basis and provide you a secure software supply chain security on this platform. And again, we are radically universal, meaning like any binary, any stack, any DevOps tool. It's we really mean by that. So what does mean, there are 30 plus package types that we support on this platform that you can natively store and manage, and we do support adding newer package types as it comes along on this platform. And we do scale to infinity. That means that the storage underneath is kind of abstracted. It's a checksum based storage, so that the more the storage that you throw at this platform, we should be able to manage the amount of number of artifacts or the size of an artifact that you could scale. So that scaling is really a golden factor on this platform for a very long time, that Artifactory and the artifact management system on this platform can scale. Again, we are multi-cloud and hybrid. That means that we can run on a self-hosted or a SaaS, Gov cloud, self-hosted and hybrid, right? So especially from a federal and a DoD entities, most of our deployments are self-hosted. That means you could run on a virtual machine based or a container based, and you can run all that on a cloud, or you can run some of these services on a self-hosted in your own data center or hybrid. We kind of support some of those from a deployment topology perspective. And again, we are very integrated into the ecosystem, and we know we are not the only one in the DevSecOps space. We have some 100 plus technology integrations, all the way from CI/CD pipeline to the deployment onto the runtime that we could integrate with. And if there is an interest in this, we can talk about what does specific integrations that this platform is working towards. Again, software supply chain perspective, think about this as the foundational layer. JFrog platform, like a database of DevOps, right? It's very catchy, we know, but JFrog is a single source of truth for all your development artifacts, right? And evidences of processes and actions across software development. We do provide SDLC management and also distributed development that you can in reality that you can think of in terms of multi-site or very highly regulated industries. We do support that. And again, with your single system of record in place, you can layer what we call as an end-to-end security, right? That sits on top of artifacts. So our mantra, what we believe in, every artifact that gets placed on JFrog platform needs to be secured from the inception all the way to the deployment of that artifact into your runtime, right? So that's why we are heavily focused on not just doing just the vulnerability management or license compliance issue. We can take care of your open source needs, right? So if you're bringing open source repositories, packages from OSS, your FOSS, your cards, all of them has to be not only you need to have a visibility of what is coming in, but also you need to have a control on what can get into your development environment, right? So that's where OSS control, we can look at your source code and make analysis of whether there are any vulnerable components that you're building. Even before you compile your piece of code, you need to have a visibility on terms of how we are building it. And binary scanning, which is where we started, like we can compile binary, could be scanned, and then also things like secrets, misconfiguration. We are going to talk about that in detail in a minute. But also, not only that, we need to make sure that runtime capabilities needs to be addressed as well. So what that means is, if you are deploying uh, your artifact onto runtime, since it's been deployed onto runtime, you want to make sure that there are no new vulnerabilities that has been discovered that needs to be extracted out. So again, AI development and MLOps is everybody is talking about that, right? So there are various different facets to it in terms of handling, monitoring, building your models, all on a single platform and distributing it has become a core tenet of this platform. We're drawing data from multiple data sources. Again, all of these things is complemented by what we call as an edge and IoT device deployment, where where you need to have an ability to deploy and manage and updates, monitor and controlling remotely, and all of them onto device management and edge management using the capability on this platform. So the next slide kind of talks about, again, all of these runs on multi-cloud and data center. We wanted to make sure all of these platforms capabilities are continuously handled, what we call as a tool consolidation. Again, the point of this presentation is to talk about these 4 different areas, right, or 3 different areas that we want to focus on, which is tool consolidation. And again, it's directly proportional to efficiencies that you can drive within the efficiency requirements that's being put out by federal government these days, and what exactly it means in terms of managing your software assets, and then efficiently managing it, efficiently securing it, efficiently modernizing it will equate directly to the efficiency, right, that the government is actually asking all of us to drive. And again, it all starts with one single thing, right? How do I consolidate your point uh, uh, vendor products that has been so fragmented? The amount of money that you spend trying to consolidate, or amount of money that you try to integrate all of them from a feature perspective in order to talk with each other, and whether that's going to drive efficiency or not, it's pretty well known, right? So in terms of the challenges, the integration points, the security aspect of it, all of them kind of talks about points to one single direction, which is tool consolidation, right? So again, we want you to think about how do we consolidate with JFrog. So efficiently, you can think about several areas, right? One is container registries or package management, distribution and caching, edge and IoT management, and so on and so forth. But specifically focusing on what we call as a security tool consolidation, JFrog integrates capabilities like enhanced software composition analysis tool, IAC security, right? Infrastructure as code or secret detection. All of them are exposures or even curation, right? Curating the piece of software that you want to bring in from public repo, and then also managing and maintaining it, SaaS, zero-day vulnerabilities, runtime security. Think about the product that are out in the market. And again, your organization might already have some of these um, point products that might do something really well, right? What they're supposed to do. And again, the focus of this presentation is not to, you know, look at the advantages or disadvantages of this point product, in which what the functionality or what it does really well or what it doesn't do well. I think the the point that I'm trying to make is how do you achieve efficiencies in terms of tool consolidation, right? How do you make sure some of these capabilities are available on a single platform like JFrog? Like we talked about, can I have one single security software supply chain platform that would help you all the way from inception of the code, can tell you SAST findings, can even tell you, hey, you a developer, you're bringing in, importing a Java class, which or a library that has a vulnerability in it, right? Even before you compile the code, and think about all the way through the software development lifecycle that you have ability to instruct and mitigate and guide and prioritize which one to fix, which one not to fix, applicability scanners, all on a single platform called JFrog. And that's going to be the game changer when it comes to the consolidation, right? And again, with the security tools and managing on single place, you want to make sure that software supply chain is secured and released to the production, right? And you want to make sure the platform supports SaaS, platform supports GovCloud, self-hosted, so that it functions on one single complete platform. So silos in supply chain, gaps that could fall through the cracks, and also reduction in vendors that would equate directly in saving costs, and all in one, reduce human error, right, and connection problem minimizing risk. I've been working with one of these agencies. It's actually a state and local agencies that it is which is basically looking at point products and trying to integrate with Artifactory, right? That our bread and butter, where we have the artifacts managed. The amount of time and energy and the integration and the misconfiguration that this agency has been dealing with, trying to get two different product lines, trying to make it work to each other, was was proving out to be really a costly affair in terms of not the feature, but in terms of managing the latest security updates, vulnerability definition, license compliance definitions, and also things like advanced security. All of them, like in the point product, was proving out to be at least 3 to 4 times the cost of ingesting these two pieces of software into the environment, right? So that exactly was the motivation in terms of consolidating along with a single JFrog platform. And again, human errors, configuration, and all of these things should not be discounted by any chance, right? There are integration points that always fails. Folks don't keep up with each other products. It's a very typical integration issues that happens if you have worked with multiple software vendors, right? That it could be protocols, it could be log formats, it could be all of them has to be consolidated on a single platform, where not only you can gain efficiency but also reduce consumption costs, and also cost of maintaining the day two operations, and so on and so forth, right? All of these things needs to be managed, and from a package management and artifact storage perspective, all on a single platform, consolidating it would greatly benefit you, right? So that's the point of this entire deck in terms of how do you achieve that. And again, security tools consolidation, as you see, multiple package types, multiple software, security vendors which are really fragmented. But how do you make sure all of these features that could be managed on a single software supply chain platform that could look at your enhanced SCA or security, IAC security or a secret detection, application exposures, and so on and so forth. All of them managed on a single platform called JFrog, and then that you could securely release to the production. And that involves commercial or Gov Cloud or an air-gapped self-hosted environments, which is usually the case, with a single, unified experience along the way. Again, this slide talks about JFrog software supply chain security, right? And what the consolidation power of JFrog platform looks like in the components like JFrog curation, X-ray, advanced security, all of them gives you an ability to come up with all of these functions and features that you typically see with a siloed product that needs to be stitched together in order to serve a point a solution, right? So again, JFrog offers an integrated functionality, right? Crucially, JFrog serves as what we call as a single system of record for all the binaries, right? It will stream workflows, minimize silos, the amount of time, like I talked about, trying to spend integrating Snyk security finding into Artifactory, onto a single place. Think about those challenges from an integration perspective that you will find. Again, as I talked about when it comes to the tool consolidation, right? The second aspect that I want you to look at, and again, specifically, what exactly is release lifecycle management? I won't actually go a little bit deep into this. You will see why this equates to driving efficiency, right? In terms of artifact, repository management, and also this concept of release that you basically effectively build from your build systems, right? Like your automated pipelines. So the RLM, or release lifecycle management, is one of the product innovations that has happened on JFrog platform in last year or so. And we are looking basically at three different things, right? If you traditionally looked at a software build is basically an automated pipeline of basically building your multiple pieces of your code, or microservices, or your different a part of your code that would equate to a single functionality on this platform that you would eventually deliver. But from a features of the software build itself, I want you to think about how do you want to trust the build that you just built. So for example, in the traditional part of this, right, in the legacy way of thinking, this is you can have multiple builds, and that eventually at some point, once you test that build, your QA or whatnot, you will start identifying, hey, this is my release candidate, this is my release build, and I'm going to cut a release, right? I'm going to say version V1 of that. So, and that version 1 that you say, this is my first, release that I would like you to test, and release that to from your development to, let's say, to the staging. The questions comes to my mind, or generally is, how do you manage the life cycle of that build itself, right? So how do you look at things like, how do you trust, right? Trusting your software release content and the processes is very loosely defined in its current state, right? On many platforms and in many facets you can think about. So what we have done on JFrog platform is giving you ability to trust the software release, the content, by creating what we call as a release bundle and sign that and make it immutable, right? So we basically sign it using GPG keys and make it immutable. What this really means is at any point in time, this release bundle that gets created, again, release bundle is a bundle of artifacts that JFrog maintains. It's a construct within JFrog Artifactory, and you can basically have that release bundle become an immutable object, right? Think about it's like a giant tarball with multiple artifacts, metadata, configuration, and all that good information. And you sign it. It has a checksum validation, robust access control. You can even uh, before you build that release bundle, you can scan it using X-ray, making sure all of these things are in place, right? And so that you can trust that software release content. Second thing, and every release candidate has to be in one single place, right? So think about, I was recently talking to one of the agencies which is responsible for delivering a piece of software onto an airplane, as an example. As you know, FAA, as an example, has a compliance requirement of you provide me a build, and in next 5 years down the road, if need be, can you recreate that exact piece of software with the dependencies, the same configuration, and would you be able to, create that build in a heartbeat's notice? And how do you achieve that, right? So the answer to that question is, from an efficiency perspective, you can now use there are two ways, right? You can think about legacy way of doing it before RLM was released. You could basically copy some of these dependencies that you're downloaded from public internet or public repo onto your cache within Artifactory, and you can basically copy that cache into some archival repository, and then you can archive it. Again, the problem with all of these things is the trust, right? And you trust the piece of software that you built today and maintaining it and managing it for next 5 years. The newer way of doing this is to have this build, create a release, a bundle, sign it, archive it on the same place on the same Artifactory instance, or you could put it out on a different Artifactory instance and make sure you have an ability to recreate that build in a single click, right? In a single platform, in a pipeline. All you do this so that you can create a release candidate. And how do you promote from development to staging to pre-prod to the production, right? And eventually onto your runtime systems. And then the third aspect of this is, how do you establish the governance that balances flexibility and control? So what I really mean by that is, you carefully manage how you want to define your SDLC stages, like globally or per project, and managing every release pipeline in one single place. And more importantly, as you promote a piece of software from, let's say, development to staging, you might want to attach provenance information, right? Like an evidence, right? Is, let's say, your um, your scanning your piece of software using static code analysis. You should be able to attach the results of that as an evidence, so that you can go back in time and say, hey, this piece of software did pass this smoke tests or SAST findings, and it didn't have any vulnerabilities. And this is the reason we promoted it from one environment to another. In the past, Artifactory, before this RLM innovation happened, we provided APIs to do the build promotions, right? So that you can copy the content from one repo to another. In this process, RLM provides you an ability to automatically create a target repositories and copy the content as part of the promotion. And eventually, you can distribute using the distribution service on this platform to stream the releases and the build to any platform or any Artifactory instance outside of this instance as well. Again, everything I talked about kind of depicted in this flow. Think about your build process, Artifactory in San Francisco. You have development repositories, and you can add an evidence and create a release bundle and do a promotion, right, from dev to QA to the prod and eventually to your endpoint, which is Tokyo or New York. And again, the distribution happens at this end. But I think the whole point I'm trying to say is how do you create this immutable release bundle really early on in this SDLC and then advance them, right? And track the status, audit requirements in terms of who created which release and who promoted it as well, right? All of them kind of could be tracked along the way and then see a piece of software that is getting built and the life cycle around it getting managed by this RLM. The third facet to this is what we call as a security. There are 4 key benefits from a JFrog platform perspective, right? That is basically how do you get a full visibility and a control, and then what we really means by this is how do you make sure you have visibility into every package that is coming into your organization. Not only have a visibility, but also have essential scanners like SAST or SCA to control whether those packages have any malicious packages. You can kind of block or approve packages as it comes in from outside repositories, central repositories in JFrog curation. And then once it is approved in and made part of your build, you want to make sure those packages are continuously scanned, and you need to have a visibility in terms of what is getting built. And that's what I mean by regaining control and visibility. But at the same time, you want to make sure the tool provides you minimized friction and streamlined security. What we really mean by this is less noise and more accuracy, right? So that means you can save time on cutting down errors with very precise applicability findings. That means you can say, hey, this CVE is tagged for this particular package, for this particular method or a function call, but JFrog thinks that it's not applicable to you. That means that it's not, you can deprioritize in fixing it. And we tell you that with our deep scanning capability, and we also understand the contextual information around it, and so that we can tell you exactly where the line number in the code the problem is. And we can even tell you, look, the CVE naming authority said it's critical, but we think this is only medium or low, so that you can prioritize it in terms of remediation. And also you can actually focus on what exactly needs to be fixed. Again, CVSS score is one dimension, right? The second dimension to this is what we call as an EPSS scoring system, which are becoming part of the platform as we speak. So what that gives you is an ability, efficiently you can think about not just looking at the CVSS score, but also applicability of it, right? Looking at the EPSS scoring as well. And the third, like we said, the customizing the policies, automating these processes in terms of security detection and enforcing those policies in an automated fashion, streamlines regulatory requirements, right? And embedding them into daily security routine. Again, the security has been at the center of everything that the government is asking us to do, right? With executive order back in 2021, with this, how do you secure the cybersecurity, software supply chain security? It has become not only some of these were kind of recommendation, but it has become a law, right? Like it has now, you are mandated to provide things like an SBOM, and not only SBOM, but in a certain industry formats like SPDX or Cyclone DX format, but also that should include the vulnerability information into your SBOM, right? So think about JFrog security provides you that SBOM at every step in the way, right? So that you can go back and look at, hey, when I created this build with this release bundle, what was my SBOM looks like? What are all my component? What are all my dependency? We don't stop there, right? So we also look at transient, direct and transient dependencies as well. We go all the way to the nth level and look at if there are any vulnerabilities in each one of those components. And same way, if you're shifting left, we can also look at, look, this is the package that you're trying to bring in into your environment. It is blocked. It is blocked because not only that package, but there is a transient dependency for that package that had this vulnerability. So we are blocking it. Think about, deploying packages which has lesser vulnerabilities and gives your developer more times to focus on developing newer application, right? So this is the fundamental efficiency driver that will help you cut uh, not in amount of like dollar cost, which is true, but also thousands of hours of research and mitigation, research that your individual developer needs to do in order to satisfy your cybersecurity requirements. Again, curation, like I talked about, like a minute ago, how do you make sure these packages that are bringing in through a proxy, through public package managers, how do you make sure that you have this kind of a unified curation policies that could cover malicious packages? Or you think about this like a Artifactory as a center of computer excellence, right? So you could have a central JFrog platform instance with curation has policies that could kind of act like a funnel and control malicious packages or any vulnerable or operational risk packages that needs to be blocked at the periphery of your network. And then if you have multiple divisions or a business unit, you can have a division-specific curation policies that would allow certain package types or remote repo as it comes in. And curation does it really, really well. And then the way we are achieving that is using what we call as a JFrog catalog, which we maintain. When I say we, JFrog maintains all the open source package information, vulnerable information about license information for that particular package, multiple versions of those packages. Imagine the reason why I'm saying this is if you are were to go back and fulfill FAA requirement to recreate this build in next 5 years, some of the packages that you have included might not be even there on a public repo, right? And that's where we come in and we tell you, look, these packages are available in our catalog. You can use that. And oh, by the way, when the package was found or when the package was created 2 years ago or 5 years ago, it did not have any compliance issues, right? It did not have any vulnerability issues. But now it has vulnerability that we have since been discovered, right? So you can make an informed decision in terms of creating those packages with the same package, or you can upgrade those packages to a latest level in order to comply with the vulnerability information. Again, all of these things are provided by JFrog security research team. We have a bunch of researchers who are basically looking at popular package format and then relieve it, for coming out with, malicious package discovered, right? And CVSS, CVE scored. And some of these numbers that you see on the screen kind of highlights the credibility of the research team, right? And these security research information kind of trickles into into JFrog, X-ray, and curation and advanced security. But having said that, we are a community-driven organization, right? That means that every findings will be contributed to the community, and also we are CVE naming authority as well, right? As that means that some of these zero-day vulnerability that we discovered can eventually become a CVE. Again, this one slide kind of talks about every product, every function's security services and where it is available, right? For example, X-ray or advanced security, or a curation catalog or a runtime security. Some of these features are very specific uh, to the foundational security layer, which is X-ray, and then we kind of build on top of it with advanced security, with enriching, and with the deeper scanners. With advanced security, you could do contextual analysis, like I talked about. You can look at your not only binaries but also your secrets, and making sure those secrets are detected. It could be accidentally left behind, you know, keys, right? Or it could be a easily guessable passwords and things like that. We can also look at your config files for any open source library misuse, misconfigurations, right? Or your application misconfiguration. Like, for example, if any port is running on an unsecure port, you should be able to discover that. And then if there are any IAC security, if there are any anomalies in terms of how you're laying down your Terraform scripts, we can discover that as well, along with really advanced SAST capabilities that could discover things like cross-site scripting, as an example, right? That could be, or SQL injection as another example. That could be, it's not just the code coverage like a traditional SAST, like a static code analysis, we should be able to do that. And again, we talked about curation. You block package, that means the package is not even downloaded from a public repo. When we make a decision to approve or block, we basically look at our JFrog catalog to see if those packages have any issues. If not, we let that package coming in into the development environment, right? You can audit in terms of tracking which developer requested which package and whether it got approved or blocked. If it gets blocked, the developer will get notified with really a concise information in the response body that, look, you requested this package and we throw out 403 unauthorized error, but this is the package that you need to download or to mitigate this vulnerability information and things like that. It's developer experience is really crucial in terms of making sure the amount of time your pipeline spends in terms of curating a package versus having X-ray scan it, right? After the fact that the library has already made it into Artifactory, it's 1:40 times, right? It's 40x faster when you're doing this curation compared to X-ray. So what this actually means is the malicious package or a vulnerable package doesn't even makes it into your development environment, right? And you can basically block that at the periphery of your network. The runtime security is another innovation that's happened in last year or so. Right now, we have gotten into a space where, look, you have deployed your packages into the runtime, but we want to make sure that runtime is secure, right? Meaning, after the fact, you have deployed the package into your, let's say, like your Kubernetes stack. There's a newer vulnerability that has been discovered. You might want to extract that particular package, and also look at traceability in terms of governance, right? Whether this package has actually flowed through the software development lifecycle that JFrog platform kind of manages and have an evidences. You can see if there are any integrity issues in terms of if somebody accidentally pushing a piece of software that didn't get stored on Artifactory, as an example, that didn't get scanned by X-ray and got blessed before it got pushed on. So runtime security provides you an ability to look at blast radius prioritization, and it can look at the integrity of the package, and it can look at the traceability and things like that. Again, that comes to the last section of this, and then I want to actually stop and see if you want to look at any of these in an action, or I can take some questions as well. So we talked about tool consolidation, we talked about security, we talked about some of the innovations that is happening on this platform, right? But all of these things also kind of pivots on how do you modernize your not only your infrastructure, also your software development practices with latest some of the things that are happening in the industry, like especially around managing your AI pipelines, right? So what this slide typically talks about a model life cycle that is expanding and ever changing, right, due to nature of this technology. In reality, AI environment can actually be in production and scale and looks like different multiple vendors, right? Different uh, model monitoring tools or different tooling or workflows that are kind of stitched to each other. And you can think about data sources from various different data lakes, or that needs to be brought in, and eventually you need to build a team or a newer team just for that. And it looks very complex, very expensive, and think about the underlying infrastructure support that you need on top of this, right? So I think this is like a problem statement. And again, this is the reality, right? If you look at any model deployment across the many industries, this just looks like this. And you can think about point products, you can think about various different frameworks or orchestration tools, registries, deployment, all of them are different, right? Because the maturity of the industry is not there yet. And what JFrog did is to come up with what we call as a JFrog ML. We provide a comprehensive, like end-to-end solution in managing these machine learning life cycles, right? And embedding generative AI, Gen AI capabilities. And I think the mantra is, how do you simplify the path of AI from development to production, right? And not only that, but also secure that entire supply chain, right? So this is kind of a very wild west in terms of folks putting out models on public repositories like Hugging Face, right? So how do you make sure the packages that you're downloading doesn't have malicious packages in it, right? And you want to make sure the security portfolio on this JFrog platform is completely applicable in a first-class citizen manner to this JFrog ML, right? So that was the whole uh, a goal or a mantra that we kind of stepped forward, and making sure that we treat machine language package type as a first class native package type on this platform. So now we can think about, it's not just the ML, right? Now we can think about the entire JFrog platform. Think about the database for DevOps. Now you can say database for machine learning, right? Ops, right? ML ops. We can provide you ability to store, manage, uh, you know, uh, stand up a registry and so on and so forth, right? And again, we are providing what we call as a unified solution that kind of integrates ML ops, LLM ops, and feature store all into a single JFrog platform, providing like a single system of record, right? And again, as you see, there are a lot of boxes in here, right? But all of these boxes are integrated onto a single platform, all the way from your machine learning engineers and data scientists who are actually coming out with data sets, and how do you make sure those data sets are ingested in a verifiable, in a version control manner into Artifactory in terms of storage, and also provide you a vector store, and making sure that it's integrated into Artifactory. And there are things like uh, how do you stand up a model registry? I mean, that's no different than what we did before, right? We would think about container registry, right? Or you could stand up a container registry within the platform. Same way you can stand up a model registry. And if you're downloading packages from public repo like Hugging Face, you want to make sure that it's curated and have X-ray, advanced security, and runtime. Everything from a JFrog security is integrated into this platform. And again, all of these, including the creation of model, um, training that model with the data in an iterative fashion, and then standing up a model registry once you think that you have a consistent model that is performing, and then so that you can serve that model on a cloud or a self-hosted platform, and you want to make sure you monitoring that, right? And then eventually a business app. So all of these facets require a single platform and have a uniform, what we call as um, a governance model evidence model and a unified experience in terms of tooling, like what we have for DevSecOps, is also made available to the JFrog ML, is what we are working towards. And again, consolidated trust onto the platform, single platform. You trust the ML workflow, and then ML trusted artifacts, right? And which is from a practitioner's perspective, they can manage their ML use case based on solution that they need, right? Experiment tracking can be one, or it can be feature stores and so on and so forth. And I think the bottom line is JFrog ML allows AI teams to build AI product faster while meeting the highest engineering standards, right? So that seems like a marketing statement, but we actually mean by that. So the functionality of this could save you hundreds of hours of having to deal with point products or framework and trying to stitch that each together and consolidate that and securely onto the JFrog platform. I will actually quickly stop here and see if you have any questions, or if you like to see any of these demo, I can probably quickly show you that as well here.
Awesome. Thank you, Satendra. Really great insights. You touched on a lot of different topics, so I'm sure we'll get a question or two. If the folks on the line are, if you have any questions for Satendra, please feel free to leave them in the chat. I've also added the slides from today in case you want to download those. We'll send them over email as well. But when folks could register for this webinar, we offered a chance to send in questions beforehand. And one question that we did get was around air-gapped environments. So maybe, Satendra, you could touch on that a little bit. How does JFrog support deploying our platform in an air-gapped environment? I think that'd be really important for our public sector customers.
Yeah, sounds good. So I think the running this entire platform with zero ingress and zero egress, right? That means every services within this platform could be run within a complete air-gapped environment. So what this really means is the tooling, the processes, ingesting these packages could mean that if you could be doing two different scenarios, right? You could basically stand up Artifactory instance in low side or an unclassed side, and then onto the high side, right? And you could, or on classified side, you could be doing a development on low side and resolving all the dependency, and then you can eventually push it onto the high side. So what this really means is air-gapped environment. Every services within the platform doesn't have any requirement to call back home or reach out to any public repositories or anything like that, which are hosted on internet. The toolings like JFrog CLI or the pipeline that would enable it could all run within a complete air-gapped environment, right? So that includes some of the features, like, for example, you might be thinking about, hey, how do I update my X-ray database within an air-gapped environment? So you could actually do something called an offline updates. You can bring the JFrog X-ray updates periodically from our cloud-hosted instance, and then you can manually move that within an air-gapped environment and have X-ray updated with the latest security findings from our JFrog research team. And again, this includes not just the Artifactory, but also running some of these machine learning models and things like that. Or you could be developing on the high side, jump back onto the low side to do any dependency management, do curation, and then move things back. And again, distribution is also one of the key in terms of doing across a domain. That would basically do a offline distribution in terms of distributing to an Artifactory instance that is completely running within an air-gapped environment. So we do kind of support air-gapped. There are many literatures on this topic. Air-gapped is completely supported as a first-class citizen on this platform.
Awesome. Thank you for taking that question. It looks like we don't have any remaining questions from our customers today. So Sudhinder, if you'd like to go ahead and wrap it up and we can close this out.
Yeah, all right. So from a from a from the key takeaway from this presentation is following, right? So one is, how do you do tool consolidation, right? How do you effectively achieve efficiencies that the our government agencies are asking, and how do you make sure you find some of the product capabilities and functions, and how do you secure them using some of the capabilities all consolidated onto a single platform? And then some of the innovations that has been happening in terms of release lifecycle management, how do you effectively do the builds and add evidences and provenance information that equates to a compliance, or attestation requirements that the government needs. You should be able to do that all within a single platform and attach things like an SBOM, software bill of materials in a standards format, all within the single platform, and also at the end of the day, achieve some of the modernization capabilities, right? That will effectively brings you an efficiency. Everybody is doing AI and machine learning for one single reason, right? Which is, how do I achieve efficiency, right? How do I make sure you're doing and looking at this data in a cost-effective way, or predictability, and so on and so forth, which are primary tenets of an AI platform. And JFrog is really positioned really well to help you achieve that efficiency and have a single platform play that will help your agency achieve better results, not just from a cost savings, but also optimize, modernize your DevSecOps and MLOps, you know, processes and pipelines. So with that, I'm going to stop and thank you again for joining this webinar. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me, email, and again, get in touch with me. I know a couple of you are we have spoken before, but I hope this presentation was useful.